going on, everyone? So far, the San Antonio Spurs, the only move that they've made is Luke Cornett, which is a great move, right? I don't want to undersell that. That was a desperate position of need, right? You really needed a backup center, guy that I think could even slot in alongside Victor Wembanyama at times, right? You solved that position, right? And now it's like, okay, we still have to fill a couple roster spots. What direction do you want to go? Now, I think there's two clear paths. I think either A, you kind of go the veterans, like get a couple veterans in, let them, be just quality rotation guys, but also kind of help and mentor some of the young guys. Ideally, you want to get those guys that are, like able to play. You could go get a Udonis Haslem type of guy where you just bring him in solely as a mentor, but ideally you'd want a guy that in a pinch you could play or just give him like limited minutes in a role, but you also don't want to take away from your young guys. So it's kind of finding that balance there. The other side would be take a flyer on a young guy that has plenty of upside and potential, but could also be a foundation piece for now in the future. And one of those guys I'd really like to see the Spurs go after and get is Emoni Bates. Emoni Bates was looked at as a potential number one pick. He was a guy that was looked at as like a no-brainer, surefire player, and then he kind of got in his own way. Made some poor decisions, right? And it kind of changed the perspective of him, some injuries, stuff like that. He ended up, sliding down the totem pole. Well, the Cleveland Cavaliers ended up basically not extending his qualifying offer, making him an unrestricted free agent. And he's a guy that I think it could be great. You saw him actually start to come into his own a little bit, right? Last season, had one of the better seasons. I'll go over the stats in here in a moment. But you're talking about a guy that has the athleticism, the shooting, the defense, right? Could be a legit two-way guy. I talk about a guy that's 6'8", right? Problem is I think he needs the right team, the right system, the right culture. And I do think the Spurs are one of those teams. I think the Spurs are one of those organizations that can come in, bring him in, get him right. And you could have a potential other star on your hands. And it just so happens because he's 6'8", that he can slot in at either forward spot for you. You could go, if you wanted to, right? If you go the young route, right? Let's say, trade De'Aaron Fox, whatever. At some point, right? You could have Dylan Harper, Stephon Castle, Emoni Bates, Carter Bryant, and Victor Wembanyama. And you got athleticism, you got defense, you got switchability, you got basically everything you want, right? Like, Emoni Bates is a guy that I think makes a world of sense. He's 21 years old, right? He won't be 22 until midway through next season in January, right? Right before the trade deadline. So you're talking about a young, athletic, versatile player who had a world of upside, who many at one point believed that he was a surefire, top player and a guy that could be a superstar in this league at some point. Again, obviously things have changed and a lot of it has been his doing, right? Again, he's a kid that just hasn't been able to stay out of his own way, but that's why I think he needs to go to a place that gives him the right kind of structure. Right, the right kind of culture. And I think the Spurs are one of those teams. Look, Spurs have had guys like Steven Jackson and all. Like, Spurs are not against guys that have a little controversy behind them, right? And have had success and made it work. And I think Emoni Bates could be one of those guys. And to his credit, Emoni Bates, he's kept his head down since. He had those things before the pros, came to the pros, and it appears that he's learned his lesson, right? You haven't heard any of like the controversy or any noise or anything like that. And, I know people are going to be like, oh, well, if he's so great, then why do the Cavs? Because the Cavs are a team that's trying to win now and don't have time for a 21-year-old to figure it out. You know what team does? The San Antonio Spurs, because their entire team is filled with 21-year-olds, right? They're just in a very different position. Cavs are trying to win a championship right now, today, right? They have multiple guys that play and can play the position. They don't have time to play Emoni Bates 20 minutes a night to get him to start developing and getting the right way, or at least anytime soon. Maybe later on down the road, it'll be, especially if the Spurs can turn him into something great, right? All of a sudden, it's like, man, that could have been a great guy. But again, sometimes, one man, the saying, one man's trash, another man's treasure. But sometimes in that trash, you find something that is, wow, this is a gem, right? This is a diamond, right? I can't believe somebody threw this away. Maybe it was an accident, right? Accidents happen all the time. You see players, end up leaving one team and go to another team and end up being great, right? So I think Emoni Bates is one of those players that has that potential to be that. I think Emoni Bates is one of those guys that can come in, play a role, fit in, right? Right now, you could bring him off the bench, give you some depth, some versatility in that regard. You could even, if you wanted to go the young route, right? They end up trading De'Aaron Fox at some point this offseason, right? You could easily bring in Emoni Bates and have him be the guy that's slotting in and playing that role. Again, he's a guy that can shoot the basketball, that can defend. He's long, he's lengthy, he's versatile. This is a guy that could be great on the right team in the right situation in the right place. But let's go over kind of the stats and whatnot of what he could provide. Now, again, he was very limited in what opportunities he had, so you got to keep that in mind. But going over it, right? Last season, 10 games played, 7.5 minutes per game. He spent most of the year, so it's not like he was injured or anything. He spent most of the year in the G League, and he was killing it in the G League, by the way. He was like great in the G League. But 10 games, 7.5 minutes per game. Again, how are you supposed to prove yourself on 7.5 minutes and in 10 games? Right? 0 starts, took 3.8 field goal attempts, shot 34.2% from the field. 3 of those 3.8 attempts were from three-point range, in which he shot just under 37%. That's great. Talk about a legit 3-and-D guy, and he's, again, 21 years old shooting that. Right? That'd be fine. 2-point range, he did shoot 25%, but it was less than one attempt. Right? EFG of 48.7%. Free throw shooting, didn't take any free throws because he's basically just catch and shoot 3 guy. Averaged in that time a rebound, an assist, half a steal, half a block, and 4 points. Right? You look at his per 36. Now, per 36 obviously doesn't tell you everything because, again, he's got to actually get those minutes and play that role. And, also a lot of times you'll see a guy, is really good in like 15, 20 minutes of action. But as soon as he plays that 16th or 21 minute, right, all of a sudden that production drops because he gets exposed, right? So, again, we don't know. We haven't seen him in that role and in that opportunity. But his per 36 is 18 points, 3.5 rebounds, 4 assists, half a steal, and half a block, right? So talk about a guy that could legitimately be a two-way player, right? And be plenty of upside. I mean, even his rookie season, his per 36 was 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, half a steal, and half a block. Right? And again, it's all unlimited games. Like even his rookie season, he only played 15 games, averaged 9 minutes per game, got 3.3 field goal attempts, and then averaged 3 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist, round up, half a steal and half a block, right? So again, a guy but he has the upside and potential, right? He's long, he's lengthy. You can slot him in either forward position. You might even be able to play him because of the way he plays and the length and the athleticism. You might even be able to slot him at the 2, kind of have him in that 2 through 4 range and kind of work him in that regard. I think Emoni Bates is one of those guys that's worth taking the flyer on. You're not signing him to a $20 million deal. You're bringing him in on a prove-it deal on a vet minimum. Maybe give him 2 years on a vet minimum with like a team option, and you bring him in. You let him work, you give him some real opportunity and see what he can be, see what he can become, right? Because again, you find there's always that diamond in the rough out there. It's just finding him, right? It's just, you see it all the time. Guys go, look at SGA, right? Clippers traded, that might go down as one of the worst trades in NBA history, but at the time, it looked like a fleece. Like, man, you just got a superstar in his prime in Paul George, right? Like, why wouldn't you do that? And you also got Kawhi Leonard in the deal, right? So you got Paul George and Kawhi Leonard because if you got Paul George, you were going to get Kawhi Leonard. So you didn't just trade for Paul George, you traded to get Kawhi too. Boom. Like everyone's like, man, Clippers are geniuses. Wow. Oh my goodness. Right. And then now in hindsight, you fast forward, it's like SGA became, a top 3 player in the league. Like you never know what that guy's going to be, and SGA, yeah, he had signs. He looked like he could potentially be a good player, but top 3 in the league? No, that never a thought when he was on the Clippers. Right? Like, again, sometimes it's where you go, the opportunity you get, the team that drafts you. I've talked about like John Collins. I recently did a video on not that long ago because Spurs were interested in John Collins. And I talked about how, you look at a guy like a John Collins, he's a guy that I feel like has been a victim to his environment. Right? Like he went to Atlanta. He's really good in Atlanta. But no matter how good he was, Atlanta just seemed to want to trade him. He was really good. Like out the gate was really good for them. And then, it's just, eventually it just tanks your confidence and you're just like, maybe I don't belong type thing, right? So, you look at a guy like an Emoni Bates, if he can go to the right team, right situation, really kind of boost his confidence. He's a guy that I do think, he could end up being one of the stars. And he's 21 years old. He's young enough to have been drafted in this year's draft. Right? The Spurs could have drafted. And it doesn't hurt to kind of have more young guys with plenty of upside and a room of growth and a guy that at one point was projected to go number 1 in the draft. So if you can take a flyer on Emoni Bates, I would do it. I think it's worth it. Again, you're not going to be locked in long term. Sign him to a non-guaranteed deal. Right? Give him a little extra money just for both years not to be non-guaranteed, even if you have to. Right? Like it's not going to hurt you either way. But Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. So I enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.